It's all coming together. All right, we are now live. Somebody let me know if it's capturing anything good, because I can't see it. Okay, sorry for the delay. While somebody is telling me if it's good, okay, that's a little bit weird. Let me see if I can crop that just a touch. Or just, let's see, crop that. We're gonna take off 60 from the left, and we're gonna take off from the top. Nope, we're gonna take off 150 from the left and 300 from the top. Okay, that's starting to look better. We can work with that. Okay, so sorry, I in the past I got here early and got this stuff set up, but I obviously didn't today. So I see we've got a couple new faces. Well, maybe 1.5 new faces. I think I recognize your face. And I don't think I recognize your face, but it looks like I should recognize your face, and maybe I shouldn't recognize your face.
Correct.
Okay.
Probably.
All right. Well, there we go.
Let me interject just real quick. It's showing last month's miseducation of CSS and March 16th date on the recording.
Okay. Thanks. I will go click the button again because it is set up
months ago.
correctly. Let me just change something. Develop experience. Developer experience. Yeah, I see the, oh, okay, sorry, one more thing I'll change then. This is correct, okay. I'm very, oh, it didn't reload it. Undo title group, reload title group. There we go.
Twitch looks right.
Okay. No, it was literally the banner that goes across was wrong because it just hadn't updated. I just had to click refresh. Okay. Anyway, so I'll get us started off in just one more second. I'm going to make one more adjustment to all of this nonsense and then be done. I think, maybe, hopefully. All right, there we go. Okay, so I'm AJ. I'm the dude that helps coordinate. This is Travis. He is the dude that helps host us along with Jeff. Vivint is our host, and we're very grateful for them for providing us a place to meet and for pizza. Our presenter tonight is Kaleb, and let me actually make sure that you are in the window there. You are in the window there, great. And then we have, let's just go around the room real quick. You are, good sir?
I'm Chad.
Chad? I hope that you enjoyed some pizza, did you?
Yep. Yes, I did.
Good.
Thank y'all.
Good, all right, because it'd suck if you just waited half an hour for me to just be late, so. It makes me feel better, I don't know if it's any better. Anyway, Chad, what do you do? Where do you have from?
What's that? I'm a software developer at a company called Lifomic. I used to work with Travis. And what I do right now is mobile development.
Cool. Do you have any bandwidth for side jobs? No? Okay.
Is it iOS?
Maybe.
Is it like iOS mobile or?
Both Android and iOS.
Okay.
Are they still using React Native?
Yes. Yep.
And you, good sir, which I should know, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty offended you don't remember me. Except that it is my first time here, so you're voting me.
Wait, you were joshing with me?
I was. My name's Ashton. I was Ashtoning with you. It's my first time here. I'm grateful for the Vivint pizza. I am a web developer at Dev Mountain, and I definitely have bandwidth, so talk to me.
That is called karma, AJ. Karma. For trolling everyone else.
You seem to forget that I have the memory of a goldfish. I don't know what I had for breakfast. How am I
Norman
gonna?
never forgets.
Oh, good. Todd?
I'm Todd. I do stuff sometimes with computers. I guess I have the sin of being in management as well, so nothing I say matters. Yeah, you might want to move away. That's the reason I'm at the end of the table.
All right.
Guess I'm up.
Yeah.
Jojo, I build stuff with things, lots of JavaScript and do some dash work and that's about it.
All right. And JoJo?
Okay, I'm Nathan. I'm studying CS at BYU and working as a software developer for the law school at BYU.
Cool. And then, did you already? Yeah, you go ahead and say it for yourself.
My name's Travis. I work here at Vivint. I was raised on computers and Nintendo, so I've been building stuff since my first official job was back in '97. Well, that's when I built my first web page, I guess, in high school. And then after high school, went directly into web development at a company called AuthorizeNet. Old school.
Money. Okay, and then Caleb's given a couple presentations in the past year.
One.
One,
This
just
is
one.
my second one.
It was a good one though, right? Jojo, was it?
I thought so.
Okay, good.
He remembers.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cloud edge computing with Bun and was it just
No,
Bun or
well, it
Bun?
was it briefly touched Bun. It was more
okay,
like
but it was more
edge.
Deno? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I got the edge right, okay?
You got the takeaway.
And now you're back to bring us more pain.
Yep.
All right, good. All right, so hopefully everybody is here in the right place. And I noticed that the title of the presentation is wrong. It should be Deno versus Bun, but it's got that old Node thing in there. What? But I guess you'll have to explain that as you go along.
Yeah, I'll let the Bun. Yeah, we can talk about that later. Not that I have like strong opinions on it, but
That's too bad.
so yeah, I'm talking about Deno and Node. I recently made like a fairly simple app for some friends, and it was simple enough, and I felt like demonstrated enough of like some common gotchas if you're to start a new project in Deno and Node. That I could like redo it in a bunch of different things. So yeah. I didn't have a picture of myself up here. Well, you can see me on the camera. Yeah, I'm Caleb. I do JavaScript, mostly front end. Lately, I've been doing a lot more back end, but I am by no means a Node or Deno expert. I just think it's fun.
Who thinks Caleb is the most expert in the room?
Nobody else has played with Deno at all.
Yeah, I'll throw my hand up there too. Okay, it turns out you are the expert after all.
All right. So this is an overview of the app. I'll show you how it works after explaining this. It's got to have an endpoint /upload that handles a tar gz file from a form, and I want it secured with basic auth. It has to extract and save the files from the tar file, and then host those files, and I want to be able to do it cheaply and preferably stick to web standard APIs. And when I say web standard, I mean if you see it on MDN, then I consider it web standard.
What if it's on MD and marked as draft for ECMAScript 2084?
I don't know, there was
Count.
stuff like
It's
that on
on
MDN.
Or what if it's in the paid version?
Ooh, MDM Plus
Or
or
the deprecated section?
if you want to know, just ask me and I'll give you a yes or no answer depending on the second and the position of the moon and whatever.
Okay.
So Deno was originally released in May 2018, almost exactly 9 years after Node initially came out. It's written in Rust, or mostly in Rust. I think it does still have some C++ stuff in there. It's using the V8 engine, same as Node, which is what powers Chrome's JavaScript runtime. It's much more web standards focused, so like you can't use any like Node. Well, you kind of can use some of Node's specific FS, like Node FS modules, or you can't use CommonJS in it though. And yeah, it also prefers to use like async await over callbacks whenever possible. It's standard. It has a standard library. Node kinda has a standard library, or well, it's not called that. Like they have these modules that are prefixed with Node. Like there's Node FS, Node Crypto, Node HTTP. Deno has their own versions of that, but they've also gone a step further and provided a bunch of other stuff in their standard library. And it is inspired by Go standard library. So if you've done Go and you're used to something being in the library, Deno probably has something available without having to install a third-party thing. Whereas Node, you would probably most likely have to install a third-party NPM package. Deno supports TypeScript out of the box without having to set up any build step or tooling or anything. Well, not much tooling. And yeah, I have a typo in there, I just noticed. So the Deno app is using the Hono framework. Oh, I forgot to show the app. So the app is for a baseball game called Out of the Park Baseball. All right, I have to go over here for this. We've the game exports an entire like HTML, just plain HTML website, and then you can host it wherever. And we sim games every couple days a week, and then they go to this thing, and then they can upload it, and then everybody can see their stats. I won the World Series last week. I was very happy. But yeah, so it's all just static, a bunch of images. The only JavaScript it has is for sorting tables, which I don't know, does this one have it? Not all the tables work with it, but yeah, I don't touch this. This is what the game gives me. All right, yeah, so the Deno app uses the Hono framework, which is a fairly lightweight framework geared for edge runtime environments, like on Cloudflare workers or Deno deploy, or there's a bajillion of them now. But this is like the most basic kind of app you can start with one. I am using, I have two versions of this that I used. One with Deno, one that's using TypeScript, and one that is using templates created with JSX. The JavaScript one is using something called HTM, which is like a tag template literal approach to templating. I'll show it later. So the first thing I had issues with was package management. It's kind of awkward because there's 3 ways you can do it. Probably more if you're creative. Oops. So the one that Deno recommends for libraries is this deps.ts pattern, where you have one file that exports everything you need from all your other dependencies, and then you import them from that file in your actual library code. Second one is the import map, and this is what I prefer. And like, so you could, if you never heard of an import map before, it's you can specify. I don't remember the actual term for it, but it's so that you can do this.
Aliases?
No, they're not called aliases. Maybe they're called aliases. I don't know. This thing.
You're mapping from one to the other. So you say, if I import fs, then look up fs in the imports map first,
Mm-hmm.
and then whatever it references to that.
Yeah. And you can reference directories relative to the import map. So, although I didn't demonstrate that there, you could slice off that // and do template/. So that kind of helps.
So there's no version management?
Well, there is. You have to specify it in the URL. Here, you can even fake it.
That sounds like
It's
how could it go wrong?
That sounds like not version at all.
it's yeah, it's kind of it's weird.
I
Because
wonder if they could do like some sort of like hash of what you expected.
they make a lock file similar to package lock, but I just deleted it because it kept getting in my way, saying that it wasn't downloading the right things, and I'm like, then download the right things. So the package management is still a headache, but you can like override specific modules and like what they're bringing in. So here you could have your patched version of some library, and you just specify it here instead of where with npm. There was this whole process with like npm link and pointing to stuff. I did it once a long time ago, and I remember having headaches about it.
It pretty much doesn't work.
Yeah, that's what I came to.
You have to fork it.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to replace a module in npm, it is pretty much impossible. I went through this with JoJo.
I've had it work plenty of times. But there are quite a few scenarios you can get into which, yes, it becomes such a headache that it's like, all right, I'm just going to clone it and drop it in the folder. So yes.
Yeah. All right, and then you can use a package JSON. This was
I thought they added that.
yeah, you can.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you said you can't.
No, you can.
Okay.
It took a second to realize how they use it. Is that they kind of expect you to just specify your normal npm dependencies, and they have to be on npm.js, or on the
main website.
Yeah.
No good.
Well, it might. I don't know if it does the full npm resolution with where it pulls stuff from. I didn't try to get one,
Okay.
but it wouldn't surprise me if it does work. So you specify them here, but they don't get downloaded until Deno finds an import from that package. So once it finds an import, then it downloads it and sticks it into Node modules, and then you have your usual Node modules directory.
So there's no Deno install or something, you just would run it and it would grab it when you run it?
Yeah, well, there's a Deno cache, where you can say Deno cache and then your entry point, like main.ts or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I've had issues with that, getting all the packages. It's like I tried one version of the app using Fresh, which is the Deno team's they created a framework, and I could not get it to cache everything. It kept downloading some pre-act debugging thing at runtime. That was really annoying, but I just, it's like, I don't care anymore. But when I went through this, I didn't have any issues. I didn't end up using a package JSON other than for, I was trying to use the Uno CSS CLI, which is like a Tailwind CSS alternative. And it could run the CLI just fine. So that was cool, which confuses me because when you run anything from package JSON, you get a message that's like, we can only run basic commands. This might not work. But being able to run the little CLI tool that watches stuff and builds stuff, I'm like, that seems more than basic. So I don't know what they mean by that. Yeah, so packages are pulled at runtime. Like I said, when it finds an import, it'll start downloading. And that's kind of like how the browser does stuff. Because when the browser is parsing the HTML page, it pulls in, it sees all those scripts and links and pulls those in as it's doing that. And it's that same kind of approach, but for a server, which is interesting.
Well, I'm assuming that once it does it once, it doesn't do it every time, right?
Right, it has a cache that it manages.
But the only way the cache will work is if you actually run your code.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, it's very strange because they also, Deno has been marketing themselves as like the thing to use for edge runtimes, and with edge runtimes you care with cold start times. But if you need to download your code, like you need to run the app to download the code, then that cold start is going to be longer because that's to download everything. But then I don't know.
Anything install is always fast for me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Does Deno have a build option, or did they use
It does. Yeah, you can compile it to a single executable, which might be what they say to do.
Okay.
My app wouldn't work in a Edge runtime, at least not that I could find. If there's like an Edge file system or like something like that, let me know. Because that would be cool, so I could actually do this in that kind of environment.
they call it S3.
I want to use S3.
Well, then you don't want to use the Edge, do you?
Because then I have to make a request across every time. I want to be quicker.
More services means more money for everybody.
I don't want it.
You use R2 because it's equivalent to S3 and it's within the Cloudflare network and they don't charge you ingress fees.
Yeah. I partway through this, I got access to, so Deno has, they have Deno KV, which is a built-in key value store, which locally uses SQLite, and in their Deno deploy, it uses I don't remember. It's a database that Apple made. Oh, Foundation, I think that's what it's called. And I was like, I wonder if I could use that and just store the HTML strings in the values of that. And I was way too slow for like writing, for like uploading it. Afterwards, it was fine. It was just, it took forever to upload, and I didn't want people to sit there forever while it uploads, or to like save it. So for serving static files, Deno provides a like a static file server from their HTTP module in their standard library. And this is like the bare minimum I would need to do to serve an entire directory with Deno. I didn't actually end up doing this because the framework Hono provides something that I used. And then for rendering, I don't like JSX.
Bless you.
Because so I'm using something called Alpine JS for like defining interactivity because I wanted, when you select a file, it shows like, this is this size and was last updated whenever. And I wanted to use this syntax, which is the view like event definition syntax, but you have to do this weird destructuring because JSX doesn't like that. And it was very frustrating. But Deno supports JSX mostly out of the box. So I didn't have to like install anything for it to process this. I can import it here in my endpoint handler and just invoke it. And then this render function is from Preact because I'm using Preact's implementation of JSX to render stuff. And then something else that was interesting is Deno's like environment variable management. They have it on deno.env, whereas in Node you would probably look for process.env.
It's very important that we don't make things compatible.
Yeah.
We would not want code sharing.
I guess you could
Definitely not.
maybe like alias, like define globally process is equal to, or process.env equals deno.env.
Because then you got the .get as well, so it's a function call.
Or, oh, yeah, that's true.
Because we would never know ahead of time what the list of strings are. It's just impossible to know.
Yeah, it's weird. I did something where I at work I needed to write something that pulled a bunch of variables from our Zookeeper, which is a like environment variable storage thing. And I had to pull stuff from there and save it in a .env file. And I used Deno has a .env module in their standard library. But our code that was pulling from Zookeeper was using CommonJS, so it had like module.exports. And I couldn't import that because I didn't know what module was, so I just said module.exports equals empty object. And it worked. I was like, all it needs to do is just put that from there, or that from there into this file, and yeah, it worked. Oh yeah, and I needed to add this to the, Deno has this deno.jsonc file, which is where you,
What's a JSON-C file?
What's JSON-C?
it's JSON with comments,
Oh,
so you can like,
Isn't
I didn't-
that JSON 5?
yeah, what about JSON 5?
I don't know. I didn't know about JSON-C till I saw this thing.
Oh.
I looked it up. But yeah, you can
We
like
can't do anything the same way as Node, okay? That would be too easy.
We can't have a JSON 5 parser. We need JSON-C parser.
yeah, you have to specify this to get JSX to working. At least this is what I came to fix it, which is annoying because I have to install or specify Preact as a dependency because that's,
There's your Preact debug problem right there.
well, this one wasn't downloading it, so I don't know why the other one was.
Okay, so wait, you said that it has first party support for it, but then it's like a standard library module, is that what you're saying?
I'm not exactly sure how it expects you to use it because it's on their front page. They say TypeScript JSX with out of the box, but it's not out of the box because I have to do this. But I can like write JSX, so this is in a JSX file, and it doesn't like throw an error. It just wasn't like giving me an HTML string or a string. It was a weird journey trying to get it to work, so I don't think they can really say it's out of the box, but I used it because they said it was easy, and it was somewhat easy. I didn't try setting it up in Node to compare, but yeah.
maybe there's something
I don't know.
strange in this.
I might have missed something too. So another thing that I ran into is that Deno uses. I went back and forth between calling them web streams and just like non-node streams, because this is off of the Streams API, which is in the spec, so you can look it up on MDN. But Node calls them web streams, and I feel like that's a little clearer to differentiate them. Because I was dealing with streams from like getting the file from the request and then saving that file and then extracting or decompressing it and then extracting the stuff from the decompressed stream. And they have some kind of distinguishing or like some differences between streams and how you might use streams in Node. Because with web streams you have streams and then you have readers. You can read from a reader. You can't read from a stream. You need a reader to read from a stream. And the same thing for writers. You can't write to a writable stream. You can write to a stream writer. And then there's transform streams, which you can read and write to if you have a reader and a writer for that transform stream.
But you can't transform them.
What do you mean?
It was just joshing because she said, we got a readable stream, you can't read it, and a writable stream, you can't write it.
Transformable.
Yeah, it's the naming is very confusing to get to because I'd never really worked with streams because I was going to this and then I was going to Node streams, and I don't want to say the word stream anymore.
My guess is that because this is intended to be implemented either in the DOM or in, basically it's intended to be implemented in C++ or something like that, and so they're providing an abstraction layer so that you can have a pointer reference that is passed through so that they don't actually have to expose APIs, so that it doesn't actually cause context switches because they didn't write it for JavaScript, they wrote it for C# or C++. That's just an offhanded guess based on previous experience with some of these standards. Because in a browser, a lot of the stuff that you do isn't done in JavaScript, even though it would be faster to do it in JavaScript in many cases. I don't know why they do that. But if you console.log it, it might say something like native object, which is the way to know that it is a C++ pointer.
Yeah, so this is
That's not Deno's fault.
Yeah.
Don't give them that. It's all their fault.
Yeah. So this is the actual code that I wrote. So this is creating the file in an uploads directory, and then this file here is from the request object. You can get a stream from that. That is a readable stream because you can only pipe readable streams. With Node, you can pipe writable streams and duplex streams and everything, which was a little confusing to figure out what kind of stream something was.
I appreciate that they call it pipe 2. That does actually eliminate a fair bit of confusion.
There's pipe 2, and then there's pipe 2 returns just a promise that I think resolves with null actually, or void, and then there's pipe through, which returns another readable stream. So that's how they do their pipe chaining. So these two lines will write the file to an uploads directory. And then this is creating a stream. Well, technically, they call it an FS file of that file, and then I can take that and get a Oh, I'm like highlighting it on my screen and I forget it doesn't highlight on here.
That's interesting. I wonder why.
It's just the things I'm using for my slides.
What are you using for your slides?
Slide dev.
I like slide up.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that too.
So I can get my uploaded file and then I can get a readable stream and then piping it through this decompression stream, which this is a transformable or transform stream, which takes in a readable and does stuff to it and then pipes it out the other end, which you can get with this reader, which is a stream reader. And this decompression stream is that's a standard. You can use that in the browser. That's like not coming from anywhere else. And then I'm using Deno's archive library to get an untar thing that takes in a stream reader. And this is a util that creates a, so there's another kind of reader, which is like, I guess like a higher level reader. Because you can make that from a stream reader. And I don't really know what the difference is, but it's what I needed, so that's what I gave it.
Wait, say that again? What?
So untar needs a reader, which you can get from a stream reader, but you have to do something to it. So like, I don't know what this is doing here.
Is reader from stream a magic function?
That's imported from one of their stream library.
Okay.
But
I get that, like, there's a couple extra steps there, but that actually, it's not insane. It's actually quite sane, all things considered.
yeah, it was just weird, like going through all this for the first time. Man, like I have no idea what I'm doing.
It's a little bit weird they differentiate between a stream reader and a reader. But I think it's probably for optimization reasons, specifically for browsers.
Yeah.
So
And
is there a writer from Stream Reader or something like that?
I don't know. I didn't have to, or like I didn't naturally come across one or needing to make one, but there might be. And then, so this creates, I forgot what untar is here, but you can do async iteration, which is this for await syntax. And then you can get everything. So this is, I'm guessing this would have to be like a readable or a readable stream of some sort, or a stream reader. I don't know.
It's probably more similar to, well, it's an iterator. It's probably more similar to in Node the way that event emitters are done, but using the newer iterator stuff.
But I can get everything from that reader, and then I can save it here, and then, well, here as I make the file and all the like directories if it needs it, and then with Deno create, it writes to it. Well, it creates a writer, and then can copy the contents of one stream into another stream, and then I close that stream. And I do that a whole bunch of times, and then we say, yay, it's finished. And that's how the upload logic works in the Deno app.
Perchance, do you know if they handle, or which of the various security vulnerabilities related to tar that they handle? Did you see any documentation?
I have no idea.
Because there's like a billion things you can do. For example, you can have a link to something outside of the directory. So you could be writing to the current directory, but then I could insert a sym link to the root directory, and And so then when you go to see what's the file path, you would see, oh, it's /etc password or
Oh,
something like that. And then you can lie about file sizes. So I can zip up a, say, 1 exabyte file into a 1 megabyte tar. Actually, I don't think you can get that big because of the block size of it. But you can get terabytes of zeros compressed down to megabytes. There's just like, there's a whole bunch of ways that can go wrong, and there's so many vulnerability reports on tar packages because of that.
I don't know. I didn't know those were a thing, so.
Yeah, it's a good way to pwn a server. Give them a bad zip, a malicious zip, or a malicious tar.
Might have to try that. See if what happens if I give it something like that. All right, yeah, so some frustrating things I had when I was working on this is Deno has had so many breaking API changes in like the couple of years it's been around. And I recently upgraded a couple apps from Node 8 to Node 18 and had no breaking issues. So what the heck? All the Stack Overflow posts I found were outdated and were not that old. And I guess that's because it's like they're new and they want to move quickly. I don't know. It was annoying. Yeah, and then I don't remember which functionality it was, but they had some features that were only on the Deno global object, and then it got moved to its own library, and you would see somebody referencing that in a Stack Overflow post, and you try to do it, and it says this module is undefined, and it's like, well, where'd it go? So yeah, some frustration there.
Like they don't have good deprecation errors, or like, hey,
Yeah.
Well, aren't
you're
they?
looking for this, it's now in the standard library, go there.
I thought they hit 1.0. Did they not?
Yeah, they're on 1.3 something. They're supposedly going to 2.
Then
I don't know.
I don't know if you remember, but they don't actually know what versions are.
oh, thanks for the reminder. I forgot that anyone didn't know that.
Yeah, it was crazy that so many headaches I could have been avoided if they just had deprecation messages. So the Node app is using the same framework, just so I can copy paste as much as possible, except it's using JavaScript and not JSX. It's using HTML, which lets you make this kind of tag template literal, and that just returns that string, but you can interpolate in there.
What's Octothorpe HTML?
That is a
That's literally what I was gonna ask.
that's something I discovered during this too. That's a subpath import from, that's something that Node does in the package JSON. It's kind of like how in import maps you can specify directories. In your package JSON, you can specify this to directories, so you can reference hashtag HTML, and then there's my template rendering helper.
So does this only work with imports, or can you do it with the, I forget what it was called.
CommonJS? Or
Yeah.
Exports, you mean?
The exports object?
I had tried to do something similar when we were trying to figure out that import-export stuff for Dash.
Yeah, the exports
And I
object.
think it might, but yeah, I haven't really touched it since we tried to do that.
Okay, this is cool.
Or like,
That's
are you
really
like
cool.
exporting one thing from like this file? Or
No, so the object imports, it's different for, so there's the browser object that looks just like this. There's the imports object that looks like this, and I believe the other one
Exports, I think.
might be exports, or exports might be an entirely different incompatible standard. I don't remember.
oh, and package JSON?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
If you're creating a library and exports, I think it is, I don't think you can use the hash symbol in exports because it's expecting some directory path as the first one or something like, it's something weird like that. So you might be right, it would be incompatible, but it would still look very similar.
There's also a module called base tag that does this, except it's with the $sign, and you don't have to do any of that. It just it makes a link in your Node modules that is the directory $sign, which also works on Windows.
Huh.
And so it just works. Like, you don't have to do anything special. You
I wonder if that would break with PNPM.
does it allow Node modules?
Well, PNPM uses symlinks in Node modules to like a global store, I think.
But does it use a directory called Node modules?
Well, yeah.
Oh, then it probably works.
There's only one way to find out. Now we know your next presentation.
Yeah.
Oh, can we be done with the PMs already? Everything that anybody wanted has made its way into NPM, although not that same afternoon.
I think you can actually do. I think you can do the scope overriding, kind of like what you could do in the pack or the import map, where you could overload or override dependencies for certain modules. Or that might be somewhere else, but I believe there was a way to do it in the package JSON.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so this is what a template looks like in the Node app with HTM. So HTM is from the same guy that did Preact. And it's kind of like a API for rendering stuff, and then you need to give it some render function that actually creates stuff. So that's what VHTML does. It parses this and then creates the actual string from it, because this interpolation here, that base page is another function, and like it doesn't have issues with my pretty syntax here for event handling, so that makes me happy.
So, this being a template string is going to interpret $sign open bracket. So base page should actually exist by this point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it would be imported above here.
Oh, okay, okay. So it's just being elided. It's not.
Mhm.
It's not undefined, being turned into magic and doing the thing that Angular did, where it stringifies its inputs to determine what its output should be.
Yeah, that's
was
just
naughty.
imported. And then like you can interpolate another call here.
Yeah,
So
that's bad. Don't do that.
It's yeah, it's very nice and super easy to set up, because you just create this and then you can export that and then import it wherever. Which with the subport and paths, you can do anywhere. Like this is in template components, message component. Yeah. And then I'm gonna skip past that because I go through it here. With node streams, this is what the logic looks like for the file upload and save and extract process on the Node app. I did bring in some extra modules because I didn't want to write. I was finding myself writing a bunch of extra code with like stat or fstat, and I liked Deno's way of, they just provided this that was easy to use, and there's a module called fsextra that I brought in so I could do something similar.
So, FYI, that's completely unnecessary. If you just use fs.mkdir and pass the recursive option, it does that.
We went back to 1990s monitor.
You told me we didn't need to plug in directly anymore.
Wow.
I've been
Does that mean it
lying
got too hot or something?
to you.
Unplug and plug back in?
Yeah, I guess so.
I think you're missing a reader stream writer.
Alright. Or like, did you
He
say we
tried
could
to
AirPlay to
transform,
it?
Okay, he tried to transform.
I think he just wanted it to work. I don't think he was trying to do anything other than change slides.
I wouldn't even touch it. It just turned purple. And we're back.
Well, that's the beauty of HDMI for you. It's got all those little goodies in there.
Okay. Wait, so what were you saying?
Did you want to change your color space in the middle of your presentation?
There's a simpler way of doing this, AJ.
Oh, yeah, so it's just fs.mkdirp. So this has been in Node since, I don't know, V10 or something like that. So anything that's in any fs extra type of package, don't use any of that anymore. Node has the problem that it's gone through a lot of changes, some of which are good and some which are bad with all of the committee-driven development in JavaScript. But of the problems that were hardcore stupid, it's fixed almost all of them that can be fixed without major breaking changes. And so walking directories is now sane, although I did write like a 100-line wrapper that makes it a lot less tedious. But you can now walk directories and get dir info directly from the file. When the file system opens a folder, it has information about what's inside the folder. You don't have to stat every item in the folder. You can just have the information that's in the metadata of the folder in the file system node. So it uses that now. And I think that that's something that may not have existed 10 years ago in Linux, I'm not sure. But all file systems are that way now as we move to 4K blocks and they need to make optimizations. Anyway, so yeah, the mkdir and I don't know if the rumrough, I don't remember whether or not that's actually been implemented in core, but that's something that's kind of dangerous and you need to pay careful attention to anyway. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that crypto libraries, don't use any external crypto libraries unless you know you need to. File system libraries, don't use anything external unless you know you need to. And also node streams, the native node streams, people don't know this, but the problems that we had back in node 0.4 were actually fixed relatively early on. And so most of the stream problems have actually been fixed for a very long time, but because the Stack Overflow posts propagate more Stack Overflow posts, you see the same. So you should only be using .pipe, .read, and .write. You should never, ever, 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 ever use on data. That is the dumbest thing that you can do with a node stream.
I think I do that down here.
Yeah.
We'll just skip past that part.
So what you do, when you get there, I'll tell you, it's really simple what you should do instead, and it's very much like what you do with Deno.
Yeah, okay.
Plug it into a port that's colder. Maybe that one's too warm. You gotta move it back and forth as you go.
Okay, so that creates, that makes sure that the file, really it's making sure that the uploads directory is there. And this is creating a node writable from a web, that's creating a web stream from a node writable stream. And then this file is the file object from the request upload, and this stream is a web readable stream that I pipe to the writable stream I created up here from this.
So where did file itself come from?
That's from like up in another part of code. It's from the request object. It's a.
Just imagine it, AJ. It's there.
No, Hono, because you're using Hono. It comes from Hono.
It's actually on the standard request object. I don't know what it's actually, if there's a better name for it.
Node doesn't bring useful things into core. I know you're lying to me.
Well, this is on. They have started supporting a lot more
Oh,
stuff.
it's an MDN. It's a
Okay, got it, never mind.
Yeah, this thing. 'Cause
Okay.
You can get it from
So
this
Node
form
has
data.
what they built as the pipes, readable streams, and that kind of stuff way before this existed
Uh-huh.
for browser and what Deno implemented. And so now Node supports both of them, and then you get this confusion of sometimes intermixing things that it was like, well, you could actually just use the new version, but because you get into the docs and you've got pipe and pipe two and pipe through, and they're jumping all over, you sometimes get this intermixed mesh of stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're gonna find with Bun and with Node, and I'm guessing probably with Deno as well, that a lot of times it's gonna be more performant to use their native thing rather than using the web one, because the web one does stuff that's weird to optimize for a browser doing it in C++.
Yep. Yeah. I took some benchmarks that I'll show later, and they kind of show that. But so yeah, so this file is the standard file object. It's not. It comes from that standard request object. Hono does something to make that request object from Node's request, or like incoming,
Yeah.
whatchamacallit. So it does some like rearranging stuff.
Yeah.
So this creates our file and saves it to our uploads directory. And then this is reading that tar file. And then this this is from a tar package. They may have issues now that I know. I don't know if they handle any of those security issues.
If it's the one by Vivint, I believe it does.
I don't know. I was just looking for tar stream friendly package, and I found this one.
Oh, I can't use my computer. That might be Isaac's.
I don't know. Oh, oops. And then this gunzip is actually from Node's zlib module. And then we need to register like a handler to the untar read or writable, I think is what it is. And then that's where I get the stuff from, or the stuff that's inside there, and then we can save it, or like, make any directories that it needs, and then write the file. And then we close the stream. And then you actually kick that off here, where I pipe our uploaded file through the gunzip, or like the unzipping stream, and then through our untar that we just did here. And then there's a stream promises module where you can pull in finished, and it takes in a readable, and you can await that, and then it resolves whenever that's done, or I don't know if it's when it's done, but it's when it can't read anything more. So I wonder if I have a leak there.
Let's see.
But that was something else I discovered, is that with the Deno APIs, you can like manually lock and unlock streams, which
You can cork and uncork. And I believe cork will keep a counter, so if you cork it 3 times, you have to uncork it 3 times. And that's the newer API. The older API was pause and resume. But there are certain softwares that exist that have bugs that won't work with cork and uncork, that you end up having to use pause and resume. But hopefully you won't encounter those in new code.
interesting.
It looks like the tar stream is Macintosh.
Don't know.
I've seen his stuff. He's done some other stuff I've seen, but
So the frustrations I had with the Node app was that callbacks that callback pattern is still fairly common, while I prefer the async await syntax. I felt like Node streams were a little more complex, than the web streams, just because like the Node stream interface is way bigger than the web one.
Too much backwards compatibility.
Yeah, so like learning it was harder and a little overwhelming when there's just so many things on that object, and they all can pipe, and they all like some of them can read and write.
That's what I was basically talking about, is it's probably not as complex as it seems, because I think they fully support web streams now. Not positive,
They
but it's
technically
that
do.
so much documentation, they get crisscrossed, and then you're like, well, this isn't working, what the heck? And it's like, oh, well, you
Yeah,
crisscrossed.
and then most of the ecosystem is still using Node streams.
Mhm. And the examples are geared around it still, so, yep.
Yeah.
Well, don't use dependencies. No problem.
And then
Why import for 4 gigabytes what you can write in 3 or 4 lines?
it's easy. Or like, what's that Festivus?
Oh, yes.
Uh,
For anybody who hasn't seen that, there's a site called festivus.dev. And it's from the Seinfeld Festivus for the Rest of Us.
Oh,
And there's one on NPM modules, and they are hilarious. The one on NPM modules is amazing, because Seinfeld is just, he's on the phone, so I gotta, you say an NPM module. I don't even have to write the code? That sounds wonderful. Yeah, I'll just print the money. And then he hangs up the phone, and then Kramer walks in as he's hanging up the phone. He's like, oh, you're gonna use a module, yeah? You know, they come with free injection vulnerabilities. Oh yeah, compromises the whole server, runs up your Amazon bill sky high. It's wonderful.
Oh, and then CommonJS is still pretty common. So if you want to write like only ESM import export code, that makes things a little annoying.
So why is that?
Well, it's because with CommonJS you can't. Well, was it CommonJS or ESM that you can't import into one another? Or like CommonJS, you have to you can import it, but it has to be like a dynamic import. If I remember right.
Oh, it's reverse. So if you're writing ESM, everything from CommonJS just works. Which is why if you're doing Node, you should just do CommonJS, because it will always work. If you flip it, if you're doing CommonJS and then you want to import ESM, then you have to do dynamic imports and this weird stuff, because the ESM modules are not compatible with CommonJS. Because CommonJS is the much simpler standard. It's very straightforward JavaScript. ESM, they had to literally break the language and add new syntaxes and new parsing rules.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But how would they have reused the C# developers if they didn't do that?
that's what I've been saying for a long time.
All right, so
It was actually
Overall-
Ruby developers in this case, but yes.
so just some like final I guess observations or concluding stuff. I found during like the file upload and saving all that logic, Node peaked a little higher than Deno, but I don't know how accurate that is. I was just looking, so I deployed this on fly.io, and I was tracking their memory usage, and that's what I saw. I think it differs from what I would see locally, because locally I could run it, and I never saw it go above 256 megabytes of memory, which the smallest unit you can use on Fly is 256, but it kept crashing on 256, so it would have had to have been using more, but it never showed it, so I don't know.
Well, there's a containerization layer that has its own overhead, and so they may be charging you for not what you are using as the process, but what it's using as the container.
That would make sense. Yeah, dependencies, I guess I didn't have to bring these in. But my inexperience brought them in. Otherwise, if I didn't use those, then they would be the same.
No, tar you need to. You need to bring in tar. You don't need to bring in FS extra.
Alright, so I had one extra one. And then I did some benchmark testing against various endpoints and like timing. The actual like extraction time took longer on Deno. That's for like the request to finish. Well, it's for the code that I showed on here to finish. I just did a console.time and time end for that. And then the Deno serving the static files was weirdly slow. I'm pretty sure I've used it before and it was not that slow. So I'm thinking Hono has to be doing something weird here. And then the Node one was fast, but was weirdly slow at serving the HTML. So this endpoint here just serves a div. How many times it can do that with HTML or JSX. And Deno was much quicker at doing that than Node. But there was a really steep drop off when I did our upload page, which has a lot more elements on it, or a longer string. And then this, in parentheses, since I did the Deno app with one with HTML and one with JSX, it seems that JSX might scale better with the amount of stuff in your payload.
Are these your local computer or fly.io?
These were on, they were through WSL on my desktop,
Okay.
which has a Ryzen 5600 processor and 64 gigs of memory.
Is it WSL 1 or WSL 2?
2.
Okay. That is a virtual machine.
Yeah, so that's what I got.
So maybe the overhead of the HTML, like template literal syntax parsing.
Maybe
JSX.
that, or they're doing some optimization for JSX maybe.
Well, so with your upload in Node, you are not, because you're using Hono and you're taking it out through a web stream, you're doing multiple transforms on your stream. That could account for some of the stuff. With Deno being low on static file, this is absolutely fine because Node spent a little too much time trying to optimize for buffers of various sizes rather than just sticking to APIs. And you should not be running Node as a production file server or Deno. You should use Caddy and let them just do API, because they're to try to tune something without knowing what the buffers are, to tune it so they can both handle buffers that represent files as well as buffers that represent objects and data. They're like two different worlds. And so Deno is making the right choice to optimize only for the kind of stuff that you're going to do in an application and not optimizing for the thing that the web server that's sitting in front of it is going to be doing anyway.
In this case, it is serving the files though on Fly. But is it?
Well, that's
I need
your
to-
fault.
It's not the matter of it doing it, it's the matter of it, like, being efficient at it or not. It doesn't need to be efficient. Like, if I were to take all of Wikipedia and just generate a static site from it, I could serve it from my cell phone and not see a load on the CPU ever, because it doesn't matter, because it's optimized for that if I use a file server. Deno's not trying to optimize for that, and any look at like how efficient or inefficient it or Node is irrelevant, because it's like, well, my flute is really good at cleaning the toilet. That's not what the flute's for. It doesn't matter.
Remind me never to help you clean toilets.
Though the one bit of pushback I have on that is that in the beginning,
Not me.
that is part of how they were marketing Node. And that is part of the problem of Node's history, is that it was trying to be a web server at one point. And and you look at Express and the 600,000 dependencies it has, half of them are for doing things that your web server is going to do anyway.
It's just
come in nice every once in a while.
it's interesting because Deno also claims to be the fastest, the blazingest,
No,
blazingestinger than Node. And then, and then Bone's actually faster. Deno just says it, but a lot of things they've seen, Deno tends to be a little slower, but that could be implementation. But
Yeah, it's best if you want to make a benchmark and you really want to impress people. What you want to do is copy and paste from Stack Overflow for your competitor, and then fine tune your example based on your internal implementation details that you know.
Look, Ryan Dahl can write something in Deno that's way faster than everything else. So just become Ryan Dahl.
Ooh.
yeah,
I think you've got.
it's on my to-do list. And then that's all.
That's what you thought, but actually now it's time for questions.
Yep. Alright, this is like the actual
For Festivus.
upload
Oh,
page.
actually, it is time for Festivus first. Would you please bring up Festivus?
Wait, is that how you spell it?
Yeah, I think so. Festivus. If not, it'll just redirect to some software site. Okay, there we go. Where is NPM?
Just use an NPM package.
Just use an NPM package. Our Christmas gift. So, should I use a package? Should I use a package? NPM?
You full screen this.
Well, that's easy. I'll try it. Hey. So, I was looking to write a function to check if the number's even. Apparently, I can just use a package. Really? It's perfect. I get all the functionality without all the work. Just install and use. It really saves you time. And who cares if it pulls in 1.5 gigabytes of dependencies? Exactly. And get this. Remote execution for free. Remote code execution. Oh sure, how do you think that even an odd number package does its logging? Console.log? Console.log is 2021. The library makes a REST call to a remote server to get the text code. The logging message is given efficiently every 2 bytes. Get some JSON file, reads your password file. Has to do all that, buy another package. Really? Why do you think those packages have millions of downloads? Oh yeah. Wait, you thought it was only 2 lines? Well, what? I spent 4 hours patching a production site last night because someone included a package for sending CSS.
We mean like the
Just a
0.5 speed?
I should write my own
Oh, can you change the speed of the video?
Probably. Well, if you've got the video speed extension.
By the way, this
Right
is
there.
a blessing everybody
Look at that,
knows.
AJ. He's got the video speed right
No,
there.
that's just their
Could
native
have it.
regular player.
All right, but there's a thing called video speed. I think it's just called video speed extension, and you can hit. I think it's D to speed up and S to slow down, or maybe it's the opposite.
Even just use my bookmarklets.
Hey, your bookmarklet is awesome, but the video speed extension is slightly better
Awesomer.
in many cases. Slightly better enough to be worth using. But
Well,
anyway,
it's doing the same thing the NPM modules are. Installing 80,000 other packages you don't need.
no, it's not. I checked out the source. The source is available on GitHub for that one. So I did look at it because we were doing that with yours. Anyway, so questions for Kaleb or anyone else? Todd loves to answer questions.
Comments. Feedback.
I found the is even module in GitHub, by the way.
The what?
The
Yeah.
is even module.
Yeah, it's got a list of every number.
Yeah, it says hopefully someday will be completed, but we need community support.
Yeah.
Would you
Vision series today at all?
I used it, so I like it with its library, that it's easy to just write one script without having to pull in, like, I also have a package JSON. So I wrote a script that pulled in some data from, we have this environment, or the service that tracks environment variables, and I needed to pull in those values and save it in a .env file. But you know, when they're in a .env file, they need to make sure that they follow how a .env file works, so like they need to be formatted correctly. And Deno's .env module does that already, or does that for me. So I had like 3 import statements. I imported the like ensure file, imported stringify from their env module, and then they even have one for like logging out pretty colors. I brought that one in. And so it's just those 3 things.
Shame.
Those 3 things, and I took it, or was able to get the data, save it, and put it into an env file.
So
And-
this is the service between Zookeeper?
Yeah.
Did you call it like Rhino?
Well, it's not a
Poster or
service,
something?
it's just a script. It's just for local development, for it to get that stuff and save it, so that then when the UI reads that file, or the UI server reads that file, it gets the variables that you need. And I wrote that in Deno just because I was aware of those, what it had in its standard library, so I could pull that in. And then you can actually run, there's a package for called Deno bin that downloads Deno and then runs whatever you tell it to with Deno, but you do it through with NPM. So it's like, for whatever developer has to run that script, they don't know that they're using Deno, but behind the scenes, it is using it, and I only had to write one thing, and I didn't have to like bring in a package JSON and all this other stuff. And so it was portable. Oh, so that's another thing that Deno has kind of, I think before, maybe not so recent, they were kind of marketing themselves as like a Bash replacement. For like don't do your scripting in Bash, do it in Deno. So that was interesting, and that's how I kind of used it. And I can see why they say that, because you can define your dependencies and everything in one file. So you can move that file around, and then when you do Deno run your script, it pulls the dependencies.
Well, at least some possible version of them.
Yeah, whatever version you put in the URL.
No, whatever version is hosted at the URL.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
actually an important
Whatever
distinction.
version is hosted at the place resolved by the URL.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So if you get the right DNS servers in between there, it's whatever you want it to be.
Well, hopefully, does it disallow HTTP?
I didn't try it HTTP wise.
That's good of you.
I don't know if it. I don't know.
You have to start thinking like a malicious attacker, like somebody who just wants to take advantage of others at all costs.
Okay, well, so
But you
that's
can-
why Deno has the flags built in. But then you
Oh,
get
yeah.
so annoyed by the flags, you just always do allow all. And you make your
Yeah.
alias in your script so that Deno run is actually Deno run allow all. And then you never have to worry about all those warnings it gives you.
I really do think that they solved for the wrong problem. They kind of took a problem that existed at the time that they were doing Node and solved that problem, which had already been solved by operating systems and other best practices along the way. And when are you going to run a web server and not want to read from files or the network? This isn't a use case for an application.
If it's a CLI, maybe.
The story of JavaScript is not learning from the rest of computing history ever at any point, or listening to anyone trying to educate you about it.
Well, you gotta give NPM its due.
No, I don't.
Despite publishing all the passwords publicly to that document database, they actually fixed almost all the problems that had been had up to that point from Python and Ruby and Perl. We're looking at me funny, but Ruby still has its problems.
If your poster child of success is we did better than Ruby,
It's a low bar, a little bit.
not the flex you might want, dude.
Well, look, Go created the perfect package management system. Rust ignored it, and then basically did exactly what the guy said. Well, if you don't choose the most optimal route, you get the slightly less optimal route. And then Deno just threw it all away. But NPM did a pretty good job, despite the struggles. I give NPM credit on mostly solving the package management issues, and then just being stubborn-headed and dumb about really easy to fix problems that they could have fixed 10 years ago that didn't get fixed until it was handed over.
I think Node is probably gonna just absorb Deno eventually.
I mean,
Or
that's
like-
what happened to all the other forks.
Yeah.
Technically
Well,
not a
because,
fork, but
Well, look, there's a
I
difference.
guess
though.
now that they've merged the node modules in,
That's actually one of the things that
one's built in Rust,
I'm ticked off about.
one's a mishmash of C++ and Python, I'm just saying.
because they had the opportunity to just leave the crap behind, and they almost took it.
C++.
Mm-hmm.
But there are problems that can never be fixed in Node
Okay.
because the backwards
But Node
compatibility
is
would break,
C++.
would warrant just calling it something different, which is why we have Bun.
You know, I don't know.
I'm not positive about it.
There's a lot of things that I think Bun is the future of Node. I don't think Deno is the future of Node, because Bun is rewriting everything from scratch without keeping backwards compatibility for applications that would otherwise break. There's so much wrong with streams and with file reading and with TCP and with HTTP and Node that cannot be fixed.
I
don't know if
tried
that's
doing it
accurate.
in Bun once.
Bun is trying to do node compatibility with a bunch of the modules.
Yes, but they're not trying to implement the bugs. So Node, there's a lot of stuff you had to do in Node that relied on using things in very particular ways that if you were writing something new, or even, there are problems with the Streams API that anybody who's trying Bun on something is probably young enough or working on a project that's new enough that you wouldn't open up an issue for Bun and say, hey, I'm migrating this project from node 0.8 and it's not working in Bun. Like, I could be wrong, but I don't think that that's going to fly. There's a lot of stuff from the very early days of Node that is very bad and is kept in there for compatibility that if it needs to be rewritten from scratch. And there's a lot of public API that's just, I would hope that Bun wouldn't try to emulate it, because there's like nested objects in Node where a stream has a reader which has a reference to its parent stream, but it turns out it's not the reference you think it is. It's actually like it's a different object that has all the copies of the same. So it's like these are two objects and they look the same, but one's actually an object on a sign of the other. And if you access the properties on this object, you can actually go a layer down into this other child. I've had to do this stuff, and it's not fun. And I don't ever want to deal with it again. And if someone were to re-implement the mistakes of Node for the sake of compatibility with a new application, that would be mind-blowingly terrible. You know, when it's something like, you know, the crypto module isn't implemented correctly because the random values is missing. That was a bug that you and I opened up, I believe. Something similar to that.
Yeah, something about that.
You know, that's one thing. But if I were to try to get Telebit to run in Bun, I would hope that they would reject my issues.
So I'm going to take the original question that I asked of, would you use it for anything serious ever at this point? And I'm going to summarize mostly just what you said as maybe someday.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Okay.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I like using it. Mainly because of their standard library. And for like writing that script was so simple. Like I just got into it. I knew what I already needed. I pulled it in, wrote the code, and I was done. I didn't need to do npm init, type equals module in the package JSON, and some of that other stuff. So for like that, it was awesome. Is it like eventually it might get to a point for other stuff, but I think for like scripting where you could use Bash, or maybe you're more comfortable with JavaScript because Bash has been weird for me to work with.
You gotta
I
learn
would use
POSIX.
it eventually.
No, all you need to do.
Don't do it.
All you need to do is install shell check and schwumt.
And
then
Oh.
then ale, or if you're using VS Code and whatever plugin is for shell. Shell check and schwumt. And then whatever, if you just put octothorpe bang /bin/sh, it will teach you how to write it.
Huh.
It will have a detailed, it's almost as good as the Rust compiler. You've used Rust, and you know it rehearses paragraphs from the book to teach you how to write your code as you're writing it. Shell check is pretty much that good.
Huh, I've not used it, but now I know.
Yeah, I would never recommend anybody try writing shell scripts without shell check.
Yeah, I really like Deno for that scripting use case.
No,
Yeah.
I refuse.
Todd has the correct opinion on this. You are wrong. I appreciate your inexperience, but you are wrong. You do not use TypeScript or JavaScript, despite the name, for scripting.
Oh.
That is POSIX's job.
So I first wrote the app with the Fresh framework, which I'll show here.
Don't you write command line utilities in Node.js? And isn't that essentially the same thing you do in the shell script?
It's a difference in kind. Writing an application is different from writing a script.
Yeah, a CLI tool is not, although I often reach for Bash for that too, but that's different because it's a CLI
Because
tool.
I said so.
It's a thing that you use Bash to call.
But
Right.
not Bash, right?
No, I'd use Bash. I could be convinced to use anything, I don't care, but I'm going to use Bash because it's everywhere.
Except that it isn't, which is why I stopped using it.
What do you use instead?
SH.
POSIX. I just use POSIX shell.
99% of my Bash is POSIX shell, so yes.
You think that until you install shell check.
Eh. You don't give me as much credit as you know you should.
I don't know.
I
There's
was
a lot of
there
nuance.
Before Bash, okay. I was there before Bash.
You don't look that old. You don't have enough gray hair for that.
I'm 41. I have children that have longer programming careers than some of these people.
All right, fair enough. Anyway,
It's my favorite Overwatch quip. I have children higher ranked than you.
so other questions, comments,
This was
derailments of our derailments? Oh,
that's Hono. Dev, in case anyone was curious.
It's fast, but not only fast. Hono means flame in Japanese.
It's Japanese flaming fast.
I like that.
Yeah, that's what I used.
Incompatible with
Right?
Right?
See, you say V, and I think V8.
Well,
the. No.
you're right. Okay.
I think it might be Vivint.
No, there's
It's
no.
fine.
It's definitely.
There's no tildes or accents or anything. It's like,
Oh, you're not screwing with that. Okay.
Well, but what? It's a French word made by a Chinese dude, so it's V.
so right?
Hold on. At this time, I'd like to transition us formally from diverting from any questions that could have been for Kaleb that I then hijacked and
So many times.
rambled on, to the part of the meetup where we graciously offer our kind gift for your service to us. May this multi-tool bless you and your wives and children. And also, new edition, I want everybody to see this. This is the new edition. Sorry, you don't get one.
That's right.
The new edition for presenters is now this handy dandy pin reset tool.
Wow.
Yeah, only at Utah Stack JS. No other meetups or even conferences are handing these bad boys out, but you need to reset a router, boom, right on your keychain. So more incentive.
It's like you've had a problem with this recently and maybe bought a bunch?
I think I have 4 of those in my desk drawer.
But do you have them in every desk drawer?
Yes.
And I will too.
Have it in your pocket.
So, and also, before we just go into random everything on purpose, we've got a couple of, let me see what we've got on the schedule. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the online for those of you that joined in online. Thanks for joining in. Like, sub, follow if you want to. Let the one who guide you. Adios. 5, 4, 3,